Thank the gentleman. Pursuant to Clause B of Committee Rule 9, we will use the next 60 minutes for an extended period of questioning of the witness. I'll now recognize myself for 30 minutes. Director Clancy, who is the most senior official on duty the evening of March 4th?
Most senior official on duty at the White House was the watch commander, Captain Braun.
Captain Braun. Did the individual act appropriately and report the incident per United States Secret Service policy?
I know he reported it up to the next level.
Which is?
To the lieutenant, the inspector. He reported it up to his inspector, who is not on the complex.
Is it the Joint Operations Center?
No, the inspector is just his inline supervisor.
And he did report it?
To the inspectors, that's my understanding.
Did the inspector report it then to who?
My understanding, again, from the initial preliminary review, was he reported to the deputy chief, Alfonso Dyson.
Who is he supposed to report it to?
He would report it, or should report it, to the special agent in charge, Robert Buster.
Both of which, these people were invited to. So you indicated that you learned of the event from a former Secret Service agent.
That's correct.
Can you describe that call?
Yes. On the morning of March 9th, I was getting ready to leave our headquarters to an off-site meeting, and I received this call from this individual who said, "Hey, are you aware of this incident that happened supposedly on March 4th?" And I said, "No," and he went into some of those details based on the email that you put up there on the screen. And
who's the first person you called?
The first person I called, I believe, now again, please forgive me as I go through this because this is weeks ago and I don't have notes in front of me. So I don't intentionally mean to misspeak, but I believe it was the Assistant Director of Protective Operations.
Who is?
William Callahan.
Who counseled you not to ask questions on your own following the incident?
I'm looking at the management director from Homeland Security regarding the OIG investigations.
Who is that?
No, I'm sorry, the management directorate. It's a memorandum with the Department of Homeland Security.
Who did you consult with to make this decision that you couldn't ask any questions?
I don't know if I spoke to Res Security, professional, the Office of Professional Responsibility, and I think they described the process.
Did you consult with Homeland Security?
Not other than advising them of this incident. I didn't consult with them in terms of what I could investigate.
Who in your chain of command is ultimately responsible for briefing you about security threats around the complex?
The Assistant Director of Protective Operations.
When did you know that there was an assault on one of your officers?
The evening of March 4th, I would have received that alert via email, and I believe they called me as well. They typically call as well.
So you knew that there was an assault on your officer that night. What'd you do?
No, I knew that there was a suspicious package, and I'd have to go back to the PIOC alert, but there was an altercation with an officer. That's routine. They happen almost, I wouldn't say every day, but that's a routine event at the White House complex.
Should that have triggered the saving of the videos?
It would have, the fact that there was a suspicious package would have triggered saving videos.
Assault on one of your officers, does that trigger?
Yes, that would have as well. It was one and the same. It was the same incident.
Well, they're two different incidents, but what period of time is reasonable before and after that altercation should they have saved the videos?
I would say within, once things settled down, they would call that evening before the shift, certainly before the shift was over. I would assume that the watch commander would call the Joint Operations Center.
No, I'm saying how much video before and after the incident is a reasonable time to save?
I think anything that captures the incident. That captures the incident.
Do you deal with these incidents different when the president's in the residence?
I'm sorry, you mean video?
Does your
inside
policy change of all these discussions about response and video and
No,
does not change if the president's in the White House?
no, Mr. Chairman, it does not.
Was the president or anybody in the White House briefed on the March 4th incident?
The White House was briefed on the March 4th incident, not on March 4th, though, when I found out about it on March 9th. But that's my assumption. March 9th, when I found out about it.
Who was briefed?
The Deputy Chief of Staff.
And who briefed them?
The special agent, no, I'm sorry. Initially, I did via an email, and I think the special agent in charge may have followed up on that.
So you sent an email to the Deputy Chief of Staff. Who is the Deputy Chief of Staff?
Anita Breckenridge.
Have you ever spoken with Metropolitan Police Chief Lanier regarding this incident?
I have not.
Have you ever visited with her?
I have not. We had a
You're the director of the Secret Service. She is the chief of police.
and can I just say that we did have a meeting scheduled, and there was a conflict.
You've been in this position for 6 months as the acting and current director, and you've never had a personal conversation with the chief of police for the Metropolitan Police Department?
Since I've been back, I have not had a personal.
In the last 6 months?
That's correct.
And not about this incident?
And not about this incident. Again, there's interaction all the time with Metro around the White House complex. There are issues every day. There are arrests every day.
I just don't understand when the principals don't talk to each
And I
other.
don't think the chief would want me to call every time we have an incident at the White House complex.
But I think there'd be some open lines of communication, some indication that you all even know each other and that you have each other's telephone number. What time did the Protective Intelligence Operations Center alert Secret Service personnel about the bomb, about the email about the bomb threat? I believe the answer is 11:12 p.m., correct?
Yes.
This is 47 minutes after the package was dropped and 15 minutes after the crime scene was disrupted. Who drafted the alert?
Our Protective Intelligence Division would draft the alert.
Do you have a specific name or title?
I don't.
Do you think it was complete?
I think based on the information they received, it was complete. I don't.
You've reviewed this.
Oh, sorry, Mr.
You've
Chairman.
reviewed this. You've gone back, looked at it.
I've read the PIOC alert, yes.
Why didn't this alert contain information about the suspicious package bearer being breached by Mr. Conley and Mr. Ogilvy?
I don't know that they were aware of it. I don't know that the Protective Intelligence Division was aware of it.
But they're watching this. There's a live feed of this, correct?
There is, yes.
And nobody notices that a car kind of just drives right through the scene?
They may have noticed it. I can't answer it, but I do know.
That's why we're going to drag these people in and have a discussion with them. We tried to invite in Mr. Buster, Kimberly Tello, Thomas Rizza, and Michael Braun, very senior people within the organization. Did the witnesses we sent invitations to for this hearing personally receive those invitations?
I don't know that answer. Yeah, but I know they were aware, but I don't have the answer if they personally received.
How do you know that they were aware of it?
Because I know that some of our people have talked to them.
But not you.
I have not.
Did they personally decline?
Did they personally?
Decline to come testify before Congress?
I was not involved in those conversations, but I don't
Whose
know if they
decision?
were asked.
Whose decision was it to not allow witnesses invited to testify before this committee? Who made that decision?
Ultimately, it's my decision.
Why is it your decision?
They work in the Secret Service, and it's my responsibility to make those decisions.
So you told them not to come testify before Congress?
I didn't specifically tell them through our staffs. I said, working with the department, that we would not provide them in this open hearing.
Why?
Again, I was focused on this open hearing, and I didn't think it was proper to have them in an open hearing giving testimony, which would, as we've heard today, the morale in the Secret Service among many people is not where it should be. And as we bring out...
Are you concerned that it would have been embarrassing?
I'm concerned that some of the information that would have been released would have generated a lot more conversation within the ranks, and they would have said, well, if those four were brought up, why didn't we have others, or why were they representatives, or their story doesn't sound right. It might taint others that have to be investigated or interviewed. So there's a number of things that would have occurred.
So instead of transparency, you opted for just keep it close to the vest and don't provide that transparency, correct?
No, I wanted, again,
You wanted one filter point.
I wanted the Office of Inspector General to give them.
We'll go back to the conversation that we had. Did you or your staff have any conversations with any White House officials regarding their appearance?
With the White, no.
You had no conversations with anybody at the White House?
No, my conversations were with, actually it was through my staff, with the Department of Homeland Security.
Who at the Department of Homeland Security?
I can't answer who at the Department.
Was it Mr. Mayorkas?
No, I did not speak to Mr. Mayorkas regarding.
Will you give us the answer to that later?
I'll research that, yes.
When will you give us that answer?
We should be able to get that this afternoon, I would assume, yes.
Thank you, that would be great. If we invite these individuals and others within the Secret Service, if we invite them in for transcribed interviews, will you provide these individuals to the committee?
I will.
Will you provide all personnel requests to the committee for transcribed interviews?
With the department, I will certainly work through this. But I answered.
You are the director.
I'm the director under the Department of Homeland Security.
Can you make this decision by yourself?
I can take responsibility for it.
Can you make this decision by yourself?
Well, we'd have to see. We'd have to see.
What does it depend on?
I'm sorry?
Is it Jay Johnson that makes the decision?
No,
Is it the
I
president that
would
makes the
seri-
decision? Who makes the
I would
decision?
seriously doubt this raises to that level. I would imagine, again, I'm assuming that it gets to the legal offices and decisions are made there. And I don't know if they're looking at precedent. I don't know what they might look at there.
Why haven't you fully responded to the committee's letter, done in a very bipartisan way, the letter of March 19th for our document request?
I think some of that takes time to acquire all.
Do you intend to fully comply with it?
Yes, we do.
By what time frame?
I can't answer that. I know the intent was to try to have it ready completely by today, but some of these things, it just takes time.
Have you had conversations with Homeland Security about the fulfillment of these requests?
Our staff, I would assume, has.
Is anybody else in the administration clearing or approving your response to the committee?
No.
But Homeland Security is.
Homeland Security is looking at the work and the decisions that we make, yes.
Anybody at the White House?
Not that I'm aware of.
Why haven't you provided the committee a detailed description and timeline of when you became aware of the alleged misconduct or other events of March 4th?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought I was forthright in the testimony today of what my account of that day was.
We need a more complete timeline. You have yet to provide a list of all the personnel on duty or otherwise involved in the response on March 4th. Is that something you will provide to the committee?
We will.
When?
I don't have a time frame for that.
What's reasonable?
Depends.
It shouldn't be that hard to tell who's on duty.
No, it shouldn't be that hard. So I would assume by the early tomorrow.
That would be great. We appreciate it. Thank you. Let me ask you, when you were the special agent in charge of the Presidential Protective Detail, the PPD, did you ever have a situation in which a lower level agent or officer raised concerns about security at the White House complex?
Wow. I'm assuming yes, because I was pretty open talking to officers.
How did you
When
respond?
I was a special agent in charge?
Yeah.
Yeah,
How'd you deal with those?
well, I would talk frankly with them. What's your concern? What can we do? What vulnerability do you see? Have you talked to your chain of command? I'm glad you came to me, but you should be comfortable going through your chain of command. But I don't think it would be unusual for me to say, I won't talk to you.
Do you think you encouraged junior officers or agents to raise concerns up the chain of command?
I think I did, and I think my manner was the same as it is today, that I would think, very approachable.
What is a fireable offense?
Well, something that would require your security clearance to be removed if you have something that might affect national security in terms of your relations with foreign nationals.
Did you take any disciplinary action regarding the failure to report misconduct by your staff?
In this case, I have not at this point. Well, it's not discipline, but I did move the 2 individuals involved until we get through this investigation.
At the time of the March 4th incident, what was the Secret Service policy for driving a government vehicle after drinking alcohol?
At the time of the incident, you cannot drive a government vehicle under the influence of alcohol.
Can you have a drink? What level? What level is acceptable?
The way the policy reads, going off memory here, is that if you are impaired, if you have, you're not able to control your actions. So it's not a legal limit. It's not the legal limit. So in other words, it could be less. You may not be intoxicated by a legal limit, but someone could say that you don't have proper abilities.
Would the chairman yield for a question?
Yes.
Has the chairman or the ranking member been able to establish who asked Agents Conley and Ogilvy to respond to the scene?
Again, I don't know the facts of this case. What I've heard, and again, at this point, some are news reports and so much information, but I'm told that they were returning to retrieve a vehicle. They were not responding back to the White House.
Can you determine somebody's level of intoxication based on a phone call?
I don't think so.
Do you know how many people attended the retirement party of March 4th?
I do not.
Would the chairman yield for another question?
Yes.
Director, I'm trying to understand this dichotomy between the Inspector General and you. Does the Inspector General have jurisdiction to issue subpoenas to people outside the Secret Service?
Yeah, I don't know that answer, sir.
Does the Inspector General have jurisdiction to interview former agents?
I'm assuming he can ask their private citizens.
But the answer might very well be different, right?
Different in which way, sir?
Different from a current agent than a former agent.
Yes.
You can't discipline a former agent.
You're absolutely
Does the Inspector General have the power to subpoena, say, surveillance video or credit card receipts from a bar, hypothetically, where a retirement party may have taken place?
Yes.
So the Inspector General does have subpoena power.
Yeah, my understanding is they do. My understanding is they're 1811s, they're investigators.
Well, my understanding was that they had less power than even you would have to investigate your own folks, which is why I'm kind of wondering, and I'm sure the chairman's headed there, why you would stand down your investigation of agents in lieu of the Inspector General, who has no authority over former agents at all.
Yeah, I may be wrong on that in terms of the subpoena power, but I believe they are investigators, and we can confirm that. And also looking at the management directive from the Department of Homeland Security specifically says that you have to stand down with your investigation.
Let me jump into this and we can come back if that's all right with the gentleman. So I understand that the Washington field office requested the video the morning after the incident within the 72-hour period whereby the videos should be retained. Why were the videos then erased if they were requested within that period?
Yeah, I'm not aware of that.
Do you think it's suspicious?
From what I understand of the process, it does not seem suspicious to me. First of all, no. You can argue that loop every 72 hours. You can argue that that's not enough, but we're not in the position where we intentionally delete film. It's a matter of just selecting what you think is pertinent to the incident.
We, and by the way, the Washington Field Office request is something that you actually did produce to this committee, but how many different videos or angles have you reviewed?
I'd say the same, well, I'd say including the lady who, yeah, I'd say 3, 4, I don't know. I know there were 5 clips,
Right.
so there may have been 5 views. Very similar.
When did you first get to see the videos?
Again, the days, I don't know when the days are. I know I saw it
Kind of important.
before you saw it. I wanted to see what we were going to present to your committee.
By the way, the timeline, Thursday, March 5th, 10:40 a.m., WFO requests a copy of the surveillance video recording of the incident is where this comes from. Would it have been U.S. Secret Service policy to train cameras on the alleged misconduct by Mr. Conley and Mr. Ogilvy in the event in the evening of March 4th?
I wouldn't say it's policy, but I think if there is an incident, the watch commander has to decide what an incident is, and then he calls back to the Joint Operations Center and says, preserve this video if he saw whatever he sees as an incident.
Have you discussed providing custody of the video to our committee with Homeland Security?
I have not personally, but I believe our staff has.
Have you communicated with the White House, you or your staff, on
Not,
possession of the video?
no, not that I'm aware of.
You said you sent an email to the White House Chief of Staff regarding the Deputy Chief of Staff, the March 4th incident. Did it reference that your staff had interrupted a crime scene?
It referenced, yes, I think the way I phrased it was that 2 individuals drove through the secure zone. I think that's it, yeah.
Did you receive a response?
I'm trying to recall if I spoke to the Deputy Chief of Staff or the Special Agent in charge. I don't honestly remember. I know I did speak to the Deputy Special Agent, I'm sorry, to the Deputy Chief of Staff, but I don't know if the SAC spoke to her first. I don't know that time frame.
So, but you did speak with
I spoke to her, yeah. Yeah.
On-
I don't know the time frame, though. I honestly don't know the time frame.
but you'll get that to us?
I'll look for it. I didn't keep notes, but I'll look for when I may have spoken to her.
And will you give us a copy of the email you sent?
Yes, sure.
Who in the Joint Operations Center would have been responsible for real-time flagging the video during the March 4th incident? Who at the Joint Operations Center is responsible for that?
There's a on-duty supervisor at the Joint Operations Center. Yeah,
You have a forensic services division, correct? At the
We
Secret
do.
Service?
And
Have
I've
they
also-
been engaged in this?
I think everyone has been trying to retrieve these videos.
When you say everyone,
Well,
who?
I'm sorry, I should be more concise. I know that when we didn't have these videos available that you requested, we brought in some of our people from cyber investigations, as well as some of our people from our technical side, as well as the manufacturer. I directed a staff. I said,
So did you engage the forensic services division?
I don't know personally who, yeah, I just don't know.
Who gave orders on which tapes to preserve and which to not during the March 4th timeframe?
I don't know that answer.
Who should have been responsible for that?
There's a sergeant, lieutenant in the Joint Operations Center, as well as a GS-14 supervisor. And the watch commander decides who or what is an incident, and typically, as I understand it, would call back and make that request.
Recognize the gentleman from South Carolina. Mr. Gow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very briefly, then I want to go to the gentleman from North Carolina who's done so much work on this issue. Director, I am a little bit vexed as to whether or not these 2 agents were on duty or not. I'm sure that you have policies on the consumption of alcohol while you're on duty, and I don't know whether or not either of these agents consumed alcohol. Do you?
I don't know if they consumed alcohol. That'll be a matter of the investigation. It'll come out.
What we do know is that they either responded to a crime scene, which would be problematic because they potentially contaminated a crime scene, or secondarily, they were unaware and they just can't drive worth a damn and drove over a barricade, neither of which would be good scenarios, right?
That's correct.
I continue, and then I want to go to the general of North Carolina. I continue honestly to not understand this desire/willingness of government agencies to stand down for the Inspector General and suspend their own internal investigations. You've been an investigator for how long?
Well, I've been in the business 27 years.
All right, 27 years. If you saw two GS-15s fighting in the parking lot, would you call the Inspector General?
Well, we call the Inspector General, and then it's their option whether to take it or give it back to our agency. They could have refused to investigate and give it back to us, but I think, again, in an effort to try to be transparent, and again, I'm required to do that by the Department of Homeland Security's memorandum.
But if there were an ongoing theft, just an ongoing theft of say, a vending machine at your headquarters, you wouldn't call the Inspector General, wouldn't you interrupt that theft?
Yeah, that one would not be required because it's not a GS-15.
What if it were a GS-15?
If it's a GS-15, we could notify the OIG, and then they could make a decision on.
I cannot believe that in the throes of an ongoing crime, you would notify the Inspector General. I mean, we trust you to protect the life of the President of the United States, and you can't investigate a suspected drunk driving?
Well, we would investigate the incident that of the protective interest, which is the female with the bomb. That is ours, and we would take that. With regard to misconduct, that's something that we would offer to the special agent or to the OIG.
I'm going to say this in conclusion, then I'm going to give the time to the gentleman from North Carolina. It is great to correct and punish misconduct after the fact. It is even better to prevent it in the first place.
Yes.
And there's not a person here who does not want to see you successful, Director. Not a single person on either side of the aisle does not want to see you successful. I just don't think this is a training issue, and I don't think it's a resource issue. You got to get to the bottom of whatever is pervading the culture, and I hope you can, because it is a venerable, well-respected agency, and I hate to participate in hearings like this.
Thank the gentleman. I reclaim my time. Director, it was, according to the Metropolitan Police Department, 11 minutes after a suspect has dropped what might be a bomb on the gate of the White House with the president in the residence. It takes 11 minutes to call Metro Police Department. Why does it take so long?
Yeah, I don't know the answer.
But how do you not know? This is what's so infuriating. You're the director of the Secret Service. It's almost 3 weeks after the incident, and you don't know why it takes 11 minutes to pick up the phone and say, hey, Metro Police Department, we got a problem down here. We need your help. It takes 27 minutes to secure the scene. 27 minutes. What if it was a real bomb? What if it was a real bomb?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I've been at the White House complex when we have cordoned off areas, when we have secured zones, and it happens very rapidly from my
But this didn't, and this is the most recent example. Why didn't it happen?
I don't know.
Who are you holding accountable?
Well, we're going to wait. We're not going to.
You're going to wait. That's the problem.
We're going to wait and not.
That's the problem. We're going to wait.
Yes.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem. It took you 30 minutes to be on the lookout for a woman who dropped a package at the White House and said, this is a bomb. I want her taken down. I want a net to go over that city. I want her in custody immediately. You take 11 minutes to call Metro Police Department. You take 27 minutes to secure the area, and you take 30 minutes to say, hey, we got a problem here. You get an officer behind the right car, and they get waved off. They didn't pull them over. You said you had the license plate number. We spent millions of dollars building a video capability. Somebody can't push rewind and go see what that car make, model, and license plate is? Don't we trust that officer who has that person in their sight and say, Go ahead and pull them over until we clear this up. But no, that's not what happened. Then you go out to Virginia, you find the person, and the agents say, well, we can't really arrest this person. This is somebody who had already come in contact with us. And the problem is, you're still waiting. We're not playing games. This is the life, safety, and security of the President of the United States and the White House. Don't let anybody get in that gate. And when they come to the gate and they've got a bomb and they say they have a bomb, believe them. Take them down. Take them down. That's what I want to see. I want to see determination. I want those officers and those agents to know we got their back. You take those people down. You do not let that happen. This is the United States of America. The threat is real, but I don't feel it. I don't see it, and it's unacceptable. Time's expired. Yield to the gentleman from Maryland.